liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's get right to it. So there are calls being made for President Trump's removal, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance removal from the Oval Office. Now, this may come as a shock to some of us because this call is being made from an Air Force major, an active military person in the Air Force Major Jason Watson, an active duty logistics readiness officer currently on leave from a post in Poland, was arrested on the Capitol steps on July 1st after publicly calling for Trump and J.D. Vance to be impeached, convicted, and removed from office. He laid out a list of specific grievances. 1, unauthorized military action. He argued strikes on Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran without congressional authorization violated the War Powers Clause, and that the conflict resulted in the deaths of 13 service members and injuries of hundreds more. Also, Elon Musk's role in government, he claimed, giving an unelected mega donor sweeping authority to shut down large portions of the federal government and access government databases violated Congress's Appointments and Appropriations Clause powers. Also, immigration enforcement. He called DHS's handling of immigration enforcement unconstitutional, citing a woman fatally shot while trying to follow contradictory agents' instructions and a subdued unarmed man fatally shot. He included suppression of dissent. He accused the administration of sponsoring violence against Americans peacefully protesting. Broader claims about denying congressional oversight of detention centers and weaponizing the government against media, law firms, and universities. He appeared in uniform alongside Representative Al Green, Democrat of Texas, the only member of Congress to force an impeachment vote against Trump this term, and was arrested for crowding, obstructing, and incommoding. After Green left the area since protesting on the House steps without a member of Congress present is against the rules. He was released without charges filed. The Air Force has opened an investigation since the Uniform Code of Military Justice criminalizes contemptuous words against the president under Article 88, and troops are barred from wearing their uniform at political rallies. Air Force Secretary Troy Mink said afterwards that airmen are expected to comply with all laws and policies on personnel conduct, political participation, and wear of uniform. So this is what took place on the 1st of July. Air Force Major Jason Watson, he was arrested for publicly protesting in uniform and going against certain military policies and asking for the removal of President Trump and his Vice President, J.D. Vance. Now, hey, I think this is the start. It could very well be the start of the fall of the puppet President Trump and his lackey, J.D. Vance. It remains to be seen as of now. One thing is for sure, though, I think that this will create a cascade of other protests in support of Major Watson in asking for the removal of President Trump and J.D. Vance, and I would go so far as to say his whole administration. Now, if that should be the case, what would be the outcome and how would that affect these United States or the corporation of the United States of America and its workers, citizens. Now, that being said, I do have a clip. I want to bring this clip in, but before I do, as always, please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to the Art of Political Discourse. You guys' participation and viewership means a great deal to us. You are tapped in, and we like to bring you the most in informative and educational content. That being said, let's get to this clip because I'm very interested in what it actually says in terms of what took place on the 1st of July, 2026. Okay. And here we go.
A dramatic confrontation unfolded outside the United States Capitol after an active duty Air Force major was arrested moments after publicly calling for the impeachment and removal of President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. The incident centered on Air Force Major Jason Watson, who delivered a speech outside the Capitol.
And that's stunning. On the face of it, it's a white guy. It's a white American saying, hey, get rid of this guy, That's deep.
Accusing the Trump administration of violating constitutional limits on presidential war powers and urging Congress to impeach both the president and the vice president. Watson was initially accompanied by Congressman Al Green of Texas, a Democrat who has repeatedly called for Trump's impeachment. According to Capitol Police, demonstrations are permitted on Capitol grounds, but speakers on the Capitol steps must remain alongside a member of Congress. After Congressman Green departed, officers instructed Watson to leave the steps or face arrest. When he refused, Capitol Police arrested him on charges of crowding, obstructing, and incommoding. Before being taken into custody, Watson alleged that military actions ordered against countries including Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba violated Congress's constitutional authority under the War Powers Clause and argued that these actions warranted impeachment proceedings. The Air Force officer also criticized the Trump administration's immigration policies, the Department of Government Efficiency, and several law enforcement incidents, including the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens and a January case in which a legal observer lost an eye after being struck by a non-lethal projectile during an ICE operation. Following the arrest, Congressman Al Green praised Watson's actions, describing them as an act of courage and saying his protest should inspire others to stand up for what they believe are constitutional principles.
Hello, friends. I just left the Capitol grounds, and I was there to witness a major in the United States military bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. He stood for impeachment of the president on the Capitol grounds, and thereafter he walked up the steps where he was arrested and he was taken away. This is a kind of courage necessary to inspire others to understand that liberty and justice for all that we pledge allegiance to is something that we can make real. It's more than an ideal. It is something that can be real for every person in this country if we but only have the courage to take the stand that Major Watson took.
Okay, here we go.
Now, on the face of it, yeah, that took a lot of courage. We have to admit that because there are very few, not just in politics, but in the military who will come out openly and verbally against President Trump. Why is that? Most of us can't put our finger on it, but most of us suspect because there's a certain fear involved with committing or taking on such a task. President Trump has seemed to be the Teflon Don. Nothing sticks to him. He's a convicted felon. He's has been alleged to have participated in activities evolving around Jeffrey Epstein and his infamous parties and the raping of minors, So Yeah, you could understand, or you would see why a lot of, well, why more individuals who are in uniform, as well as who very well may be politicians, are not coming out openly, not in the halls of the Capitol or Congress, but out on the streets in public saying, hey, this guy needs to go. So yeah, it took a lot of balls for this guy, Mr. Watson, or Air Serviceman Watson, to do what he did. You got to commend him for that.
Department of the Air Force swiftly responded, emphasizing that all airmen and guardians are expected to comply with laws governing personal conduct, political participation, and the wearing of military uniforms. In a strongly worded statement, the Office of the Secretary of the Air Force said the allegations would be thoroughly investigated, stressing that the military's nonpartisan character, good order, and discipline remain essential to maintaining public trust.
From Trump's biggest cheerleader to one of his sharpest critics, Tucker Carlson has detonated a political bombshell that's sending shockwaves through the MAGA movement. Amid his escalating feud with U.S. President over policy issues, Tucker Carlson said he wants to help build a new third political party. Speaking,
That's maybe the third time today we've heard here at T.A.P.D. Plans are being made or executed to create a third party. In fact, it could very well be a fourth party as well, because there is talk not only of what Tucker Carlson is discussing with others in terms of establishing a different political party besides the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, as well as, you can't leave out the Independents and the Green Party, but also there is a push for the Black demographic, for Blacks to push also their political party, this idea or concept they have for their political party to be involved in American politics. So that would be 5 total. Right now, there are only 3, I think, maybe 4 at the most. Tucker Carlson's would be 5. And then whatever party that Black Americans or FBAs, or what they call them today, could very well be the 6th party. But for sure, Tucker Carlson is out there, and for sure, there is a gathering of Black political activists who are also discussing how to establish, or when they're going to announce, actually, when they will make known to the public their political party. So yeah, things are starting to really heat up in this country, politically speaking.
to the Columbia Journalism Review, Carlson argued that the U.S. government has become a one-party state posing as a democracy and said it needs to be broken. He added that he's going to do everything I can to bring about a new political party. Carlson's remarks come just days after he publicly distanced himself from the Republican Party. Appearing on the Can't Be Censored podcast late last month, the former Fox News host declared, "I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance." Carlson said there should be a good faith effort to figure out what benefits the country. He argued that many Americans are struggling economically, saying, "If you earn $60,000 a year, you're degraded."
Now, that is something to really be discussed. Tucker Carlson, of all people, have turned against his friend, his buddy from the past, Donald Trump, in support of creating a new political party to run against not just the Republicans, I would suggest, but also the MAGA base. Now, this is, again, a turn of events that needs to be noted. Tucker Carlson was an advocate of Donald Trump, especially in his first term. it could be said that without Tucker Carlson in Donald Trump's first term as president and his victory, without him, it would not have occurred. Now, here we see Tucker Carlson in this frame of mind where he's saying, hey, this guy is not the right guy for the country. And he is taking steps towards finding not just a means to get rid of Donald Trump, per se, but to get rid of the MAGA base. And I would assume some of those in the Republican Party who may not be outright MAGA supporters, but nonetheless, individuals who do not have the country's best interest at heart, so there's something to actually think about.
The conservative commentator also claimed that Americans are living shorter lives and facing a bleak future. He said, and I quote, "Your life expectancy has gone down, and the promise of your children's lives is likely gone. No one seems to care. It's not even a factor." He added that the first priority of the U.S. government should be the welfare of its own people. Carlson also dismissed speculation that he plans to run for president. He joked that he had been tempted to announce a pro-patriarchy presidential campaign simply to ensure he gained no new fans, but he insisted he has no intention of becoming a candidate. Sharpening his criticism of the political establishment, Carlson declared, "That's not a democracy. That's a one-party state posing as a democracy, and it needs to be broken. There's going to be a third party, and I'm going to do everything I can to bring that about." Carlson's comments come amid an increasingly bitter public split with Donald Trump. The former Fox News host has repeatedly criticized Trump's handling of the U.S.-Israel military campaign against Iran and accused the administration of moving toward another regime change war. Speaking to the Columbia Journalism Review, Carlson revealed that he has not spoken to Trump since what he described as the regime change war began. "I'm not interested in talking to him," Carlson said. He also claimed that he visited the White House 3 times before the U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iran, warning Trump against military intervention. According to Carlson, Trump acknowledged his concerns, responding simply, "I know." Carlson further predicted that Trump would eventually have a messy breakup with the Republican Party. Then he made perhaps his most controversial claim yet. Carlson said Trump is not a man in charge of his own life, adding, "I feel sorry for anybody who's enslaved, including..."
Most of us tend to think nowadays that Trump is only a figurehead. He is not actually the commander in chief. There's speculation and allegations that Donald Trump is the puppet of Benjamin Netanyahu, Zionist of the Israeli state in occupied Palestine. So that's not far-fetched in terms of what the statement was just now. Many people are thinking this, and not only that, many people are saying this as well out loud.
Him. However, Carlson did not explain who he believes is influencing or controlling the president.
I just did. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Zionist Israeli state who are occupiers of Palestinian land. It is believed and or alleged that the Zionists from Israel run the presidency as well as most of the Congress, so.
I want to invite you to a free trading and investing workshop right here in Woodland Hills that will forever change how you...
The comments have drawn comparisons with Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who also announced the creation of a new political party after his own high-profile falling out with Trump. Like Carlson, Musk argued that Americans are effectively living under a one-party political system, particularly when it comes to government spending and what he described as waste and corruption. If Carlson moves forward with launching a political party, he'll need to register it with the Federal Election Commission. Once one of Trump's strongest media allies during his years at Fox News, Carlson was dismissed by the network in 2023 following the fallout from Fox's $785.8 million Dominion voting system settlement. Since then, he's built an independent media platform and podcast where many episodes continue to attract millions of views on X, keeping him among the most influential voices in conservative media.
Well, I'm amazed by the new treaty at Versailles that was signed yesterday. I'm just amazed by it. In fact, when I first saw it, I thought it was fake. There's so much lying going on, as there is in any war, but particularly this one, that I just didn't believe it could be true for a bunch of different reasons. Obviously it's an admission of failure, of defeat of the United States by Iran.
Tucker Carlson has finally revealed the exact reason he is turning on Donald Trump and Republicans. It's not what you think. The former Fox host, who was once Trump's legitimate right-hand man, dropped a massive bomb this week, saying that the president has realized the biggest threat to his administration, but is doing nothing about it. As Carlson accused the GOP of putting Israel's interests ahead of American voters, Trump insider Laura Loomer knew exactly what the message was. Shut up. Carlson says the Iran war exposed deep divisions inside Trump's movement and argues the Republican Party has abandoned its own base.
I think it's entirely fair to ask them, and it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas. I'm not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of Intel Services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan?
Carlson alleges Israel pushed Washington into war with Iran and says the United States ended up paying the price.
Now, this statement by Carlson supports what we say here at TAP, that President Trump is just a figurehead. In reality, we tend to think that Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet are the true rulers and leaders. They are the ones who are truly making the decisions in terms of American politics and governance. That's our take on it. It remains to be seen just what is the full scope of Benjamin Netanyahu's influence on Donald Trump. But being that he is still a sitting president, he's not obligated to answer that question on a personal level. But again, most of us see it for what it is.
He argues America, not Israel, is carrying the burden of the conflict. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm out. Carlson's exit has energized parts of the MAGA movement. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's also done with what she calls the America Last Republican Party, fueling speculation about a widening split inside conservative politics.
Well, I'm amazed by the new treaty at Versailles that was signed yesterday. I'm just amazed by it. In fact, when I first saw it, I thought it was fake. There's so much lying going on, as there is in any war, but particularly this one, that I just didn't.
Stop, Carlson. Most of us know there's a lot of lying going on. Most of us also know that there is an abundance of corruption going on, not just with the president, Donald Trump, but with his whole administration, as well as family members who he had brought in to his administration. And most of those who are sitting in seats of power position in his administration have no prior experience in those seats or positions of power.
didn't believe it could be true for a bunch of different reasons. Obviously it's an admission of failure, of defeat of the United States by Iran, which is the world's 34th largest economy. So it's just a remarkable admission.
That it is. That it is, Tucker. Yeah, so tell us your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think about this incident, starting with the fact that active duty Air Forceman, major at that, has called for the removal of President Trump and J.D. Vance from the White House. And again, couple that with the fact that Tucker Carlson, of all people, is now against Donald Trump and the MAGA base. And you can't convince me that something isn't going on here. Something is obviously taking place. So if you have any ideas or thoughts about this, please drop them in the comments and we'll address those immediately. We like to know what you, the public, is saying in terms of the content we're giving or putting out there for you. In the meantime and in between time, take care of yourselves and each other.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.